The journey to success, or conversely to failure, is not exactly linear.
If Josh is able to win games at UCLA the way he has at Bosco, he may get a chance to help an NFL franchise build into a championship team as well.
No, you won't.
So, let us take a look at these players who were once the cream of the crop, boasting 5-star recruit status, only to have their transition to the pros not pan out as expected, and dive into their journeys. Laquon Treadwell, WR, 23rd overall, 2016. Coming out of Crete-Monee High School at Illinois, Laquon Treadwell was the kind of wideout that looked like an NFL pro as a teenager. Big, physical, and dominant in contested catch situations, especially against high school competition. He was the #1 wide receiver and consensus 5-star recruit in the 2013 class, and signed with Ole Miss, where he immediately showed why that hype was real, becoming a reliable target in the SEC and rewriting school receiving records along the way. Treadwell's stock was trending up. His hands, size, and catch radius had evaluators believing that he'd be a top-flight possession receiver at the next level. Minnesota grabbed him 23rd overall in 2016, but his transition to the NFL was anything but smooth. In 4 seasons with Minnesota, he totaled just 65 catches and 2 touchdowns, numbers that you would expect from a journeyman tight end, not a first-round receiver. Robert Nkemdiche, DT, 29th overall, 2016. When you are the top overall recruit in the entire country, as Robert Nkemdiche was in 2013, the expectations are seismic. The 6'3", 296-pound wrecking ball from Georgia looked like a future Pro Bowler. He had freak athleticism, raw power, and positional versatility that made him one of the most recruited prospects in recent memory. Just not exactly consistently. Still, his upside kept scouts interested, and Arizona rolled the dice at 29 in the 2016 NFL Draft. Well, it didn't take long for the cracks to start to show. In 3 years with the Cardinals, he tallied just 4.5 sacks and was eventually cut. From there, it was a parade of short-lived stints. Miami, Seattle, San Francisco, yeah, none of those stuck. When your Wikipedia reads that you most recently played for the Edmonton Elks, yeah, that's when you know your bust status is solidified. Josh Rosen, QB, 10th overall, 2018. Unfortunately for Rosen and the Arizona Cardinals, who drafted him number 10 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft, there is a big difference between being pro-ready on paper and being cut out for the grind of the NFL.
I'm absolutely the best quarterback in the draft, by far. I want to win Super Bowls, and I want to have the most, so I'm coming for Tom Brady's record.
Josen Rosen was brought in to be the franchise savior and bring the Cards out of quarterback purgatory. But saviors don't thrive behind collapsing pockets and outdated playbooks.
There were 9 mistakes made ahead of me, and I will make sure over the next decade or so that they will know that they made a mistake.
Now, in Rosen's defense, he didn't exactly walk into the best of situations. Steve Wilkes was in over his head, and Mike McCoy's offense looked like it time-traveled from 2003. He became shell-shocked early and developed skittish footwork, messy mechanics, and lost any semblance of an internal clock. 1 year later, he was gone, replaced by Kyler Murray and offloaded to Miami for pennies. What followed was his own personal version of quarterback purgatory, bouncing from team to team, never given a real runway to reset, just being stuck in QB rooms as an afterthought. Jeff Okudah, CB, 3rd overall, 2020. Jeff Okudah was the kind of cornerback that you only see come through once every few recruiting cycles. A 5-star alpha out of Grand Prairie, Texas, Okudah just had it all. He was as fast as could be, had the size, fluidity, and press man traits to wow scouts alongside his senior year skills tape. Okudah signed with Ohio State, became a day 1 starter, and lived up to the billing, dominating in the Big Ten and flying up draft boards. By 2020, he wasn't just a surefire lockdown cornerback, he was one with a top 3 grade, which almost never happens, for a reason, as the Lions would soon learn. Detroit bid at 3 and took him, and then, well, it went bad, as you could predict. Well, at least in the eyes of cornerback skeptics. Okudah got cooked early and often in Matt Patricia's system, and quickly it became clear that his once unshakable confidence was shook. Then the injury bug bit him, requiring core muscle surgery, causing hamstring issues, and of course, the devastating Achilles tear in year 2. By the time his body finally recovered, Detroit had moved on. Isaiah Wilson, OT, 29th overall, 2020. Isaiah Wilson was a walking prototype coming out of high school, a 5-star offensive tackle out of Brooklyn who looked like he had been designed in an an SEC lab. At 6'6", 350 pounds, with rare athletic traits for his size, Wilson dominated prep competition and became one of the top lineman recruits in the country. Georgia scooped him up with the expectation that he'd become the next great mauler in a long line of Bulldogs trench legends. Tennessee ended up taking him 29th overall, hoping to anchor the right side of their line for a decade. He played for a grand total of 4 snaps in his rookie season. 4. Off-field issues piled up faster than playbook installs that he reportedly couldn't keep up with. The end result was multiple suspensions, COVID list violations, team rule infractions, even legal troubles, and no success on the field to speak of. The end result was ugly. In fact, no first-round draft pick has played fewer snaps than Wilson, with the exception of Jim Detweiler, who never played after being drafted in the first round of the 1967 NFL Draft. Yikes. Ruben Foster, LB, 31st overall, 2017. In high school, Ruben Foster was a force to be reckoned with. He had the kind of speed and violent tackling ability that made recruiters salivate, especially when they watched his tape. The football instincts just jumped off the screen. At his peak, Foster was the #1 linebacking prospect in the country and evolved into a 5-star lock almost immediately. He signed with Alabama and continued to dominate in Nick Saban's defensive scheme. There was, however, a dark side to the aggression that made him such a force on the field, as whispers about his maturity, health, and off-field decisions dropped his stock. San Francisco rolled the dice, however, taking him 31st overall. And, for a hot second, it looked like it was a bit of a steal. But unfortunately, those red flags did not vanish once injuries limited his availability. Then came the arrests, one for marijuana, then a weapons charge and domestic violence accusations. The 49ers cut ties in 2018. Washington took a chance on him, hoping to be the beneficiaries of his redemption arc, but Foster tore his ACL and LCL before ever playing a snap. Taco Charlton, edge, 28th overall, 2017. Coming out of Pickerington Central in Ohio, Charlton was a 4-year standout with 5-star size and explosiveness, with all the raw traits needed to entice colleges all over the country to pursue him. He committed to Michigan and developed into a steady force on the Wolverines' defensive line, culminating in a breakout senior season that vaulted him into first-round consideration. Dallas bit at 28th overall in 2017, seeing a high-ceiling pass rusher who could bolster their pass rush for years to come. But unfortunately, he just struggled to develop. He lacked bend, struggled with hand usage, and never showed the counter moves needed to thrive in a league filled with massive tackles that are also technicians at their craft. And by year 3, well, he was released. Charlton bounced around after that, each stop shorter and more forgettable than the last, resulting in a quick and mighty fall. Kelee Ringo, CB, 105th overall, 2023. Kelee Ringo looked like a cornerback built in a lab coming out of high school in Arizona. He was the #1 corner in the 2020 class and committed to Georgia, where expectations were sky high before he even stepped on campus. And to his credit, he delivered on the big stage, at least in the college ranks. But as the NFL draft approached, the cracks started to show. The Eagles, in part because of their love for Georgia products, took a flyer on him in the 4th round, hoping for a high upside project. What they got was a corner who still played like a high school 5-star. Ringo struggled in limited reps, never found traction in Philly's secondary, and has since been buried on the depth charts. Trevor Lawrence, QB, 1st overall, 2021. Trevor Lawrence wasn't just the top recruit in 2018. He was a generational quarterback prospect. He looked like a Sunday starter before he could even vote. At Clemson, where he led the Tigers to a national championship, his legend only grew. By the time the 2021 NFL Draft rolled around, it wasn't if, but when he would be taken 1st overall. The Jacksonville Jaguars made it official. And ever since then, the roller coaster has been chaotic. His rookie year was a disaster, though, not entirely his fault. Urban Meyer proved to be one of the worst coaching hires in NFL history, and Lawrence looked lost in that dysfunctional offense. Still, though, in the time since, it hasn't been great. And while it may not be fair to call him a full-blown bust quite yet, the jury is still out on Lawrence. And if he can't turn it around in the next couple of years, especially now with Liam Cohen taking over the offense, those whispers are going to get much, much louder. Rashaan Evans, LB, 22nd overall, 2018. A 5-star linebacker out of Auburn High School, Evans was the nation's top-rated OLB in 2014, topping out as the 11th overall prospect in the country and looked every bit the part. He joined Nick Saban's defensive juggernaut and developed into a heat-seeking missile at the second level. Evans anchored the Tide defense and parlayed that pedigree into a first-round selection by the Titans in 2018. As a pro, Evans struggled in coverage and often looked lost in space, and by year 4, Tennessee declined his fifth-year option. Ever since then, Evans has become a classic journeyman. Laquon Chaisson, edge, 20th overall, 2020. Chaisson came out of North Shore High School in Houston with freak athleticism and edge-bending potential. He dominated in spurts at LSU, capping his college career with a national championship, and then entering the draft early. Jacksonville made him a first-round pick in 2020, hoping to find the next great pass rusher. But through 4 seasons, Chaisson has logged just 5 sacks and hasn't developed into a consistent threat, as evidenced by the multiple teams that he's played for during the stretch. But hey, which NFL bust are you most surprised was a 5-star prospect back in high school? Who do you think we're right on here? Who do you think we're wrong about? Was there anyone notable that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.